It started with a pie. A homemade, still warm cinnamon apple pie with a flaky golden crust. But it wasn't baked for me. It was for my husband. And it was handed over by our HOA board president, Karen Whitmore, a tall, overly tan woman in her late 40s with perfectly curled blonde hair, fake lashes, and a fake smile that never quite reached her eyes. She stood at our front door in her peach-colored sundress, pretending to act surprised when I opened it instead of my husband. "Oh, I didn't expect you to be home, Melinda," she said with that slow, sugary voice that always made me want to roll my eyes. Her eyes flicked past me like I was invisible. "I just brought over a little something for Adam, as a thank you for fixing that broken community light pole. He's so handy." I stared at her. She was handing over a whole pie, while wearing perfume strong enough to fumigate our entire front porch. But before I could reply, my husband Adam, bless him, walked out in his work boots and flannel, wiping grease from his hands with a rag. "Oh hey Karen," he said casually. "What's that?" Karen gave him a look I'll never forget. It was the same look teenage girls give a crush in a rom-com. Eyes twinkling, chin tilted, lips slightly parted like she was about to recite Shakespeare. "Oh Adam, just a little something to show my gratitude," she purred, stretching the word so hard I thought it would snap. I gritted my teeth. She wasn't even subtle. He took the pie, thanked her, and turned to go back inside. She lingered, watching him walk away. She didn't even blink. Then she turned to me with that same smile. "You're so lucky, Melinda. You have such a helpful husband." And with that, she walked back down our driveway, hips swinging like she was in a soap opera. I watched her go, holding back the scream forming in my throat. I knew right then. This woman was not just bringing baked goods. She was casting her eyes on my man. And that was going to be the biggest mistake she ever made. 3 months ago, Adam and I moved into Maplewood Ridge, a quiet gated community in North Carolina. We were excited. It was a fresh start after a tough year. We'd bought a sweet little colonial with white trim and a porch swing. Life felt peaceful again. That peace lasted all of 6 days. Because that's when Karen rang our doorbell for the first time. She introduced herself as the HOA president, handed us a welcome packet that was thicker than a Bible, and immediately launched into her favorite topics: property codes, trash bin positions, lawn lengths, and community values. She ended her visit with a too-friendly pat on Adam's shoulder and a lingering look before finally leaving. I didn't think much of it, at first. But as the weeks rolled on, she kept finding reasons to show up. "Just checking if your hedge is under regulation height. Is Adam available? I noticed the light near the mailboxes flickering. Did you know our HOA has a barbecue this weekend? Adam should definitely come." Every time it was something about Adam. Not us. Not the house. Just him. One Tuesday morning I came home early from the grocery store, and there she was. In our front yard. With Adam. And she was laughing, head tilted back, hand resting lightly on his forearm like they were in a Hallmark movie. My blood boiled. Adam waved at me like nothing was wrong. "Oh hey hon, Karen just stopped by to talk about the neighborhood garden." Karen smiled. "We were just talking about irrigation systems. He's so smart." That night I sat Adam down. I asked him if he'd noticed how strangely interested Karen was in him. He blinked, confused. "Karen? No, I think she's just really into HOA stuff." I wanted to scream. Men are so blind sometimes. The turning point came when Karen organized a community hero appreciation party. Guess who the hero was? Adam. She printed his face on the flyers. Had cupcakes made with little tools on top like tiny wrenches and hammers. She even set up a podium in the park where she could publicly thank him for all he does for the community. And the worst part? She made sure I was stuck behind the refreshment table the whole event. "Oh Melinda," she said with a fake giggle, "you don't mind helping with the drinks, do you? I want Adam to mingle with her." That's when I knew I needed a plan. Because Karen wasn't going to stop until she had her claws in him. But I wasn't going to sit back and watch her take something that didn't belong to her. The next week I made my move. I sent an anonymous message to the HOA email. A concerned neighbor report. Karen was breaking 3 HOA bylaws: misuse of association funds, conflict of interest in organizing events, and harassment of a married resident. Attached? A folder of photos, screenshots, videos. Every time she touched Adam. Every time she dropped by without notice. Every pie, every creepy smile, every lingering gaze, documented. I knew the HOA had rules for everyone, even the queen bee herself. But what I didn't expect was who showed up on our doorstep the next morning. It wasn't just the HOA board. It was Karen's husband. and he had the folder in his hand. The knock at the door was loud. Too loud. Adam and I had just sat down for breakfast, pancakes and scrambled eggs, when we heard it. 3 sharp knocks. Then silence. I walked slowly to the door, already sensing something was off. When I opened it, there stood a man I'd only seen once before, at the HOA welcome dinner. Tall. Salt and pepper beard. Firm jaw. Wearing a navy polo with Whitmore and Company. Real estate stitched on the chest. Karen's husband. Gerald Whitmore. In his hand was the brown manila folder I had sent to the HOA board anonymously. Except it wasn't anonymous anymore. He looked me dead in the eye and said, voice trembling, "Can we talk, inside?" I froze. Every hair on my arm stood up. Adam came to the door, coffee mug in hand. "Gerald? Hey man, what's?" Gerald walked past us into the foyer without waiting for an invitation. He held the folder like it was poisoned. "I know what's in here. I know everything now." He slapped the folder onto our entryway table and took a deep breath. I didn't believe it at first. "Karen? My wife? Flirting with a married man? Obsessing over your husband like some teenager?" Adam's mouth dropped open. "Wait, what?" I swallowed hard, trying to act like I was surprised too. Gerald looked exhausted. "The board forwarded this folder to me before they acted. They thought I deserved to know what my wife was doing behind my back. These pictures, the recordings, the texts. That was new." He pulled out his phone. "Look at this." He showed Adam a series of messages. From Karen. Flirty. Cringeworthy. Full of emojis and winks and "when can I see you again?" type nonsense. My stomach turned. Adam blinked at the screen. I never got these. I swear." "She never sent them to you, Adam. She typed them and saved them in her notes. She was too scared to actually send them, but she wanted to." Gerald's voice cracked on that last word. "I'm sorry," he said, turning to me. "Melinda. I had no idea she was this far gone." He wiped his eyes. "Thank you for exposing her." By lunchtime, Maplewood Ridge was buzzing. Karen didn't show up for her usual morning HOA rounds. No porch patrol. No bike ride around the park. No sun hat. Nothing. Then we saw her Lexus SUV pull out of her driveway, fast. Gerald was driving. Karen was in the passenger seat, arms crossed, sunglasses on, refusing to look at anyone. That was the last time we saw her publicly for 2 whole weeks. In the meantime, the HOA board held an emergency meeting. Word spread that Karen was suspended from her position, pending investigation. Suspended. From her own empire. And suddenly, everyone started treating me like royalty. Mrs. Lambert from next door brought me homemade jam. The yoga moms on Maple Street invited me to their wine and chat circle. Even the HOA treasurer, Mr. Dillman, shook my hand at the community center and said, "We've been waiting for someone to take her down a peg." But just when I thought it was over, Karen returned. Exactly 16 days after she disappeared, she showed up at the community garden, wearing all white. White linen pants. White blouse. White sunglasses. Like a villain returning for her season finale. I was watering my tomatoes when I saw her stroll up like nothing had happened. She smiled at me. Smiled. "Melinda," she said, "long time no see." I wanted to say something savage, but I kept it classy. "Karen." She looked around at the other residents, most of whom were pretending not to notice her. Then she said the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. "I just wanted to stop by and let you know. I forgive you." My jaw almost hit the dirt. "You what?" "I forgive you," she repeated calmly, brushing invisible lint from her sleeve. "I know it must have been difficult for you, watching your husband get attention from someone like me." "Someone like her?" Was she serious? "I understand how threatened you must have felt," she added with that fake empathy voice. "But it's okay. We all act out of insecurity sometimes." I didn't react. Not right away. I smiled. "You're right, Karen. Sometimes insecurity brings out the worst in us." And that's when I made my next move. Later that evening, I created a new email, hoa.watchdog2024@gmail.com. I sent the HOA board another anonymous tip. Karen was attempting to manipulate and intimidate a fellow resident during an HOA investigation. Violation #4.2.7 in the Code of Conduct. I also attached an audio file. A clear recording of Karen saying, "I forgive you, watching your husband get attention from someone like me." I'd had my phone in my pocket while watering the tomatoes. Caught everything. The board responded the next morning. "Thank you. We're escalating this to a formal disciplinary panel." And that was just the beginning. But I wasn't done yet. I wanted Karen out. Gone. No more smug smiles. No more sundresses. No more showing up uninvited or flirting with my husband like this was a soap opera. So I started digging. I remembered something Gerald said during his visit. The board forwarded this folder to me before they acted. That meant someone on the HOA board didn't just know Karen was doing all this. They were helping her cover it up. Until now. So I made a plan. To expose both Karen and the board member backing her. And I started with the one person nobody suspected. Karen's best friend and HOA vice president, Linda Cook. But what I found on Linda's phone, that changed everything. Linda was nice. Too nice. The kind of woman who bakes muffins no one eats but still insists you take one home. She was always tagging along behind Karen like a loyal puppy, never questioning, always nodding. I decided to play her game. I, accidentally, ran into Linda at the community pool on a Thursday morning. She was setting up for the HOA's new garden safety training, whatever that meant. "Oh, Linda," I said cheerfully. "I've been meaning to talk to you. I heard you were the one who helped bring in the new park benches. They look amazing." Her face lit up like a toddler given stickers. From there it was easy. I offered to help her with HOA paperwork. I suggested we start a community welcome binder for new homeowners. Within a week I was spending afternoons in the HOA office with her, just assisting. And that's where I found it. Her phone. She left it unlocked on the desk while she stepped outside to take a call on her second line. I glanced at the screen. A message thread was open. Karen Whitmore Redheart. My heart stopped. And then sank. Karen's messages were like a journal of her obsession with my husband. "He's so much more of a man than Gerald ever was. Do you think Adam would be weirded out if I invited him to that lake cabin this weekend? His hands, girl, the way he fixed the sprinkler, I had to go inside and cool off. And then, Linda. I think he's starting to notice me. I swear the other day he looked at me differently. I was thinking of planning a surprise HOA getaway. He'll be the special guest. You can make it official. Getaway. With my husband?" I took photos of every message. Every word. Every emoji. I didn't even flinch when Linda walked back in and smiled like she hadn't just been caught harboring HOA secrets for a wannabe homewrecker. I smiled back. But inside, I was fire. That Friday night, I called a private gathering of the women in our cul-de-sac. I made it look like a fun ladies' wine night. But when they arrived, I handed out printed packets. Inside, screenshots, pictures, proof. I didn't say a word at first. I just let them read. There was a collective gasp when they reached the part about the lake cabin. "She what?" gasped Molly from 3 doors down. "This is nuts," said Tanya, a mom of 2 who once described Karen as uncomfortably flirty. "She's been planning this for how long?" someone else whispered. I spoke softly but firmly. "I think it's time we stop letting Karen run our lives. She's manipulated this community for too long. She tried to take what was mine. But now I'm taking something from her." I raised my glass. Her power. And the room clinked in agreement. Sure enough, by Monday flyers started appearing on every porch. Maplewood Ridge HOA Leadership Retreat. Hosted by Karen Whitmore. Location, Lake Evershore Cabin. Special guest, Adam Marks. My husband. I stared at the flyer for a long moment before showing it to him. He was confused. "Wait, I'm a guest at an HOA retreat? Since when?" I acted surprised. "I guess Karen really admires your handyman skills." He groaned. "Mel, I told you, I barely talk to her anymore. She's just weird." That's when I told him everything. I kid you not. A robe, like she was waiting for someone in a fantasy. And when she saw me beside Adam, her face cracked. "Oh, Melinda, I didn't know you were coming." "Oh, didn't Linda tell you?" I smiled sweetly. "Where Adam goes, I go," she stammered. "Well, I just thought we could all unwind. I even made a cocktail just for him." And that's when the door opened again. 3 women walked in holding trays. Cameras hidden in their hairpins. Behind them, another man stepped in with a clipboard and a badge. "Excuse me," he said to Karen. "I'm here from the North Carolina HOA Ethics Council. We've received a report about abuse of power and inappropriate conduct during board-sponsored events." Karen turned white. The man turned to Adam. "Sir, did you authorize being made the special guest of this retreat?" Adam blinked. "Absolutely not." I folded my arms and watched Karen's empire crack. But that wasn't even the worst of it. Because in 1 hour, her husband was about to arrive. And he wouldn't be alone. Karen stood frozen. In her fancy silk robe. Hair curled, makeup done, heels way too tall for a retreat in the woods. She looked like she was ready for a date, not a leadership event. And now, her fantasy had shattered. Because her husband, Gerald, had just walked through the door of the lake cabin, holding a suitcase. And he wasn't alone. Behind him came a woman I didn't recognize. Blonde. Sharp heels. Red lips. Black trench coat. Holding a small tablet. "This is Sasha Granger," Gerald announced coldly. "My divorce attorney." The room went dead silent. Karen dropped the cocktail glass she'd been nervously gripping. Shattered. Gerald, what are you doing here?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I'm here," he said calmly, "because my wife, you, planned an overnight HOA trip, using HOA funds in the middle of an ethics investigation, to seduce a married man." He turned toward me. "And to think Melinda had the class not to drag you in public. But me? I don't owe you that mercy anymore." Karen took a step forward, bare feet on the cold wooden floor. "You're blowing this out of proportion. Adam and I, nothing happened. I swear." That's when Sasha, the lawyer, raised the tablet and pressed play. Karen's voice echoed through the cabin. "I was thinking of planning a surprise HOA getaway. Adam will be the special guest. He's so much more of a man than Gerald ever was. He just needs a little push. Maybe a romantic setting. Just me and him." Karen gasped. "That was a private conversation. With the HOA vice president," Sasha said smoothly. "On record. On HOA time. Involving HOA money. You're done, Karen." Linda, who had been hiding behind the cabin's archway, peeked out and whispered, "I didn't think they'd actually record us." Everyone turned toward her. She shrank. "Oh, Linda," I said, stepping forward. "Don't worry. Your part's coming." Within minutes, Karen's robe was replaced with a hoodie she grabbed in a panic. She was sobbing, big, ugly sobs, as Gerald calmly read out the legal consequences of her actions. Misuse of HOA funds. Abuse of board power. Attempted manipulation of a resident under marital status. Emotional distress inflicted on other members of the community. And then came the final blow. Gerald pulled out a copy of divorce papers. "I came here to serve you. You are officially being removed from the deed of the house. The firm will process the transfer by Monday." Karen screamed, "You can't do this to me." He turned to me. "Melinda, I'm sorry. I should have believed you the first time." I nodded. Adam stood behind me, stunned but proud. "And Linda?" She slipped away quietly, until Sasha stopped her at the door. "I'll need to speak to you too. As a witness and a participant." Linda whimpered, "I just wanted to help a friend." Word spread fast. Karen was removed from the HOA board that same week. The HOA held a public town hall. Residents shared grievances. Some had been bullied by Karen for years, especially single mothers and renters. Even old Mr. Bellingham, the former board president, stood up and said, "She made my life a living hell." Linda was suspended too. A new interim board was appointed, and guess who they asked to nominate? Me. I politely declined, but recommended a kind, fair neighbor named Tanya who'd been living in the shadows thanks to Karen's threats. Tanya won the vote unanimously. Just when we thought the nightmare was over, a strange letter appeared in our mailbox. It had no stamp, no return address. Just a shaky cursive handwriting that read, "To Melinda Marks." Inside was a handwritten note, from Karen. "I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know something. It was never just about Adam. It was about power. About feeling desired, needed. I lost myself after Gerald stopped looking at me like he used to. You were right to expose me. I don't know who I am anymore. Karen." I stared at the note for a long time. And as much as I wanted to hate her, I just felt empty. Because Karen wasn't just a villain. She was a warning. A warning of what happens when you let jealousy turn you into something ugly. That weekend, Adam and I were sitting on the porch swing, enjoying the breeze. He looked over at me, smiled, and said, "You know, I don't think I ever realized how many people were watching us." I laughed. "Well, one person was definitely watching too hard." He took my hand. "You protected us. I didn't even know we needed protection." I was about to respond when a white envelope dropped at our gate. A teenage boy on a scooter waved and rode off. Adam picked it up and opened it. Inside was a glossy brochure. The new Maplewood Ridge HOA, fresh leadership, fresh start. And at the bottom, a surprise. Picture of me. Labeled, "Our neighborhood's quiet hero." I burst out laughing. But something told me, Karen wasn't done yet. Because that same night, someone broke into our shed. And the only thing missing? was a photo of Adam and I. That night should have been peaceful. We were finally free of Karen's drama. The HOA was under new leadership. Gerald had officially filed for divorce. Linda had resigned. And Karen had faded from public view, licking her wounds in silence. But silence? Silence can be dangerous. It was around 11:45 p.m. when I walked into the living room to grab my phone charger. And that's when I saw it. The top shelf above our fireplace, where we kept our wedding photo in a silver engraved frame, was empty. Gone. No photo. No frame. No glass pieces on the floor. Just gone. My stomach dropped. I thought maybe Adam moved it while dusting, but that wasn't like him. I searched the coffee table, the side table, the bookshelf. Nothing. And then, while checking behind the curtains, I saw a tiny red flicker, like the blink of a dying Christmas light. Tucked discreetly between our houseplants, aimed perfectly at the couch, was a small black device. A camera. I didn't scream. I didn't panic. I pulled the camera out gently and brought it to Adam in the garage, where he was finishing up a woodcraft project. He looked up and frowned. "What's that?" I handed it to him. When he saw the red light blinking, his jaw tensed. "A camera? In the living room?" We pulled out an old tech kit, found a USB connector, and plugged it into Adam's laptop. The camera was motion activated. It had hours of silent footage saved. And who was in most of it? Me. Cleaning. Reading. Talking on the phone. Sometimes napping on the couch. Adam was in some shots too, just casual, everyday stuff. But the worst part? One clip showed Karen. In our house. It was dated 2 nights earlier, around 3:17 a.m. The camera flicked on as the living room lights came on. Karen crept in. Wearing dark clothes. Gloves. She moved with precision, walking straight to the fireplace. She took our wedding photo. Hold it. Stared at it. Then whispered, "He was supposed to be mine." She pressed her fingers to Adam's image. And then tucked the frame into her oversized tote bag. Before leaving, she gently straightened the throw blanket on the couch. Like she belonged. I felt my blood freeze. Adam leaned back in his chair, hand over his mouth. "She's insane," he whispered. But I shook my head. "No. She's unstable. She's gone from flirting, to stealing, to breaking in." We immediately called the police. They came, took the footage, dusted for prints, and said what we already knew. This was personal. "Your locks weren't broken," one officer said. "She either had a key, or she got in through that loose laundry room window in the back. The one Adam kept saying we needed to fix. Karen had been in our home. Watching us. Taking things." Word spread like wildfire. The HOA board issued a neighborhood alert. Flyers were sent to every door with Karen's photo and a warning: report any sightings immediately. Do not engage. It felt surreal. The woman who once handed out lawn violation tickets was now considered a threat. 2 other families came forward. The Thompsons said their kids' toys kept disappearing from their front porch, and they blamed raccoons. Mrs. Peterson reported missing jewelry and strange smells in her kitchen, like perfume. It wasn't just us. Karen had been playing house in several homes. And now she was officially a fugitive trespasser. You know what they say, if you want to catch a mouse, give her cheese. So I did just that. I wrote a fake post in the neighborhood forum under a new profile. Adam Marks will be attending the HOA cleanup drive this Saturday morning. Volunteers needed. He'll be there helping ladies lift furniture again, winking face. It was bait. And we knew Karen still had a fake profile on the forum. She'd used it before to spy. So I made sure the cleanup was at the one place she couldn't resist. The community clubhouse. Where there were multiple hidden cameras now installed. Where Adam would be alone for 20 minutes to set up. Saturday morning, Adam pretended to be prepping chairs in the empty clubhouse. I sat in the HOA office across the street, watching the live feed with Tanya and a local officer. Karen arrived at 10:14 a.m. Dressed like a jogger. Sunglasses. Hat low. She slipped in the back entrance. Walked slowly toward Adam. He saw her reflection in the glass and stiffened. Karen stepped closer. "Adam," she whispered. "Why are you avoiding me?" He didn't respond. She reached out, tried to touch his shoulder. And then, 2 officers stormed in. "Hands where we can see them." Karen screamed. Tried to run. Didn't make it 3 steps. They arrested her on the spot. Trespassing. Harassment. Burglary. She was taken away shouting, "I loved you, Adam." She doesn't deserve you. The last thing I saw? Her eyes locked with mine as I stepped outside. And at that moment, she knew. She lost. But as they placed her in the cruiser, something inside me twisted. Because as crazy as she was, Karen had one last card to play. The next morning we found an envelope taped to our mailbox, and inside was a positive pregnancy test. Labeled, "It's yours, Adam." Adam held the test in his hand, mouth wide open. The morning sun was barely peeking over the rooftops, casting golden light across our front lawn, but all I could see was the white envelope and the single line of text scrawled across it. "It's yours, Adam." I snatched it from him, turned it over. It was a real test. Used. Still slightly damp. Disgusting. But what was more disgusting? That Karen had the audacity, the delusion, to claim she was pregnant by my husband. He looked at me completely thrown off. "Melinda, I swear, I never touched her. Never even hugged her." I nodded. "I believe you. And this?" I held up the test. "This is her last desperate act. But now, she's going down for good." Because Karen thought she was still playing checkers. But I had just flipped the board. First, we went straight to the police station. We handed over the test in a sealed Ziploc bag. The detective in charge, Officer Penny, said, "If she left this claiming it belongs to your husband, that can fall under defamation and emotional distress. We'll treat it seriously." Second, I contacted Gerald, Karen's ex-husband. Now fully divorced, Gerald was furious when he found out about the pregnancy stunt. "That woman is sick," he said over the phone. "You want help exposing her? Say no more." Turns out, he still had access to Karen's private pharmacy account, and he had been tracking her purchases since their separation for custody reasons. Guess what we found? Not only was there no record of any pregnancy tests bought under her account, she'd recently filled a prescription for menstrual regulation pills. AKA, she wasn't even trying to get pregnant. She was just playing pretend. Karen was already facing charges. And now, thanks to the fake pregnancy stunt, we had a case for evidence tampering, defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress. Karen accepted a plea deal, probation, mental health therapy, and a permanent restraining order barring her from Maplewood Ridge or Adam. That winter, Karen moved away. Peace returned to our lives. And finally, for real, we were free.